Hey guys, please like and subscribe, and check me out on Twitch. I stream almost every day. Today, we're gonna go over updated rune pages guides for Take two. Okay. Hey guys, please like and subscribe, and check me out on Twitch. I stream almost every day. Today, we are gonna go over the Aphelios buffs and an updated rune page guide for Aphelios. So first, let's start with the keystones. I have this nice little guide written out for you here, but I'll break it down for you guys as well. So I think PTA is probably like the best all-around rune on Aphelios right now. It's just a really solid keystone. You can't go wrong with it. It's nice for short trades, burst combos, because you just proc it instantly with Aphelios' Qs. So it's really nice for just short trades, burst combos, and it scales better than Conquer versus tanks. So if you're wondering, okay, well, they have a lot of melee tanks, Conquer, PTA, you can't really go wrong with PTA. It's also really good into rage comps when you go for like a Gale Force collector build and you're just looking to one-tap someone. PTA will give you the best accessibility to getting the one-shot potential on your opponent. So versus range, and I know Aphelios struggles against range, you probably want to go PTA. Okay, but when do we go these other keystones? So Lethal Tempo. Lethal Tempo is probably the best rune if you're looking to bully lane. So for example, if you are an Aphelios Janna lane into an Alistar Ezreal, you want to go Lethal Tempo, because not only will Janna pocket you and help you excel in just team fighting front to back, which Lethal Tempo is great at, it's also really good because you can just proc one auto and Aphelios can actually get lane prio level 1, which is something he really struggles with. If you proc Lethal Tempo really well in lane, it's going to give you tons of bullying potential, gives you prio on wave as well, and being able to shove waves out fast is something that Aphelios can't usually do, so it actually changes up his kit, so it makes it so he can be a champion that gets lane prio. Breaking it down even further, I think Lethal Tempo pairs best with Kraken Slayer. So if you go for a Kraken Slayer build, pairing with Lethal Tempo is going to make you scale extremely hard. This is the strongest scaling rune on Aphelios. It's also great in front to back team comps, as you can already tell, but it definitely feels lackluster against range comps or against lanes where you're going to be fighting all the time, because Lethal Tempo might feel awkward. You can't use it all the time, and there's those fights where you're like, wow, if I went PT or Conquer, I would have won that. So make sure you're taking it in the right games, but it can be extremely broken with Kraken Slayer in lane prio games. So take it when you're looking to scale hard and bully lane hard. Last but not least, we have Conquer. I know a lot of people just default to Conquer all the time. Conquer is really OP on Aphelios, only in the right games. If you default to all the time, there are definitely games where PTA or Lethal Tempo are better than Conquer. Let's talk about when Conquer is a good rune though. First, Conquer is a great rune when you are pocketed by a champion like Lulu, Soraka, or Yuumi. What this means is that fights are usually going to be extended, so you can fight extra long and get your Conquer stacked up, and as they're healing you, you're going to increase your damage and your healing and just overwhelm team fights, okay? Or early skirmishes, because Conquer is the best early to mid game when you skirmish a lot. If you think you're in skirmish heavy games and you're getting pocketed, going Conquer to blow up in lanes are really, really good. So it pairs well with pocket enchanters. It also gives him the best power spike with Berserker Greaves. So on a lot of the times we're like, yo, do we go Nuke or Berserker Greaves? If you have Conquer, Berserker Greaves is probably a really good pairing with Conquer. You stack it up early, you position hard, and with Chakrams you just run people over. So when you're thinking like, okay, Conquer, it's more early to mid game based skills, doesn't scale as good as other runes, but it gives us potential to outplay 1v2 and just blow open games, and that's why we like to Conquer on Aphelios. Other games it's good in is when you have melee to melee support matchups, because you know you're going to be able to get it stacked up really easily, and if you don't get Conquer stacking, it's actually kind of a bad rune. So go games where like you think it's like Alistar, Leona, Conquer is not a bad choice. Unless you think it might go late, then you maybe want to take a different page, but in those situations, Conquer is also really good. And lastly, the thing about Conquer is it's also nice when you fight bruisers. Conquer doesn't feel that good into tanks, but against bruisers who are a bit less tankier than tanks, it's really easy to stack up on them and take over the fight. So to break that down simply, PTA, short burst trades, VS range, Lethal Tempo, best scaling, best labeling, and Conquer is the best for snowballing. Now let's get into the other runes you can take to follow up on the precision tree. Okay, next we're going to talk about the secondary runes you can take in precision. So first we're going to go over the second row, which is Overheal, Triumph, and Presence of Mind. So Overheal, why do we want to go Overheal? Overheal scales the hardest of these runes, and it's really nice. You can't really go wrong with Overheal unless you plan on ability spamming. It's the most consistent rune of this tree, so if you don't know what you want to go, you can't really go wrong with Overheal. It's nice for short trading, or if you're going to get shoved on their tower and you're just farming and getting poked, you can just take Overheal and it's going to be a really nice rune. Next we have Triumph. Don't go Triumph. You're trolling if you go Triumph, okay? Boom. It does nothing for us. No triumph. I know some of you like no triumph. Okay, next. Presence of Mind. Presence of Mind is a really, really good rune if you're gonna bully lane hard. If you're gonna spam abilities and just make your opponents feel miserable, Presence of Mind is what you want to go. If you have a winning bot lane matchup and you think that you can use it really well, take Presence of Mind every time, because if you bully hard with Presence of Mind, it's so good for snowballing. Not only that, if you think you're gonna be in like a skirmishing heavy game where you're gonna use multiple swap combos, taking Presence of Mind is really, really good, because it means that while you're fighting, you get those kills, you get your mana back, and then you can use more combos. You'll definitely notice it. You will notice it. There's going to be games where you take overheal and you're going to wish you took Presence of Mind. So get a feel for it and figure it out. So overheal, great for scaling, not too much trading, just short trades, farming. You're not going to ability spam during laning phase. Triumph, don't do it. Presence of Mind, trade hard early. If you're going to play lane, if you're going to skirmish hard, take Presence of Mind. Next, we have Alacrity, Tenacity, and Bloodline. These are another page where like there's only two real options. Alacrity, really only go Alacrity when you're going to go Shield Bow. Before, we could take Domination secondary, you could go Alacrity and it felt pretty good. It's good for lane bling. But that being said, only go Alacrity when you're going to go Shield Bow. Other than that, let's not take Alacrity. Next, Tenacity. Nope, we don't touch that. Aphelios doesn't need it. If you need Tenacity, you're probably positioning like garbage. Lastly, Bloodline. Yes, Bloodline, yes. 99% of the time we take Bloodline. 80 carries cannot afford to build lifesteal, guys. It is a luxury stat. Therefore, if we can get it in our rune page, it's super nice. Please, Bloodline, 99% of the time. Every time, Bloodline. Okay, cool. Next. Coup De Gras, Cut Down, Last Stand. Now these is actually where you can get a bit flexible with it. This is where you actually have a few options. Coup De Gras, again, like a pretty consistent one you can go. If you're planning on playing lane hard and you're going to go for these like early fights in laning phase, it's the one where you're going to feel it the most in laning phase. If you're confirming kills and you're like, you go for a Calvin Q and you want to finish a kill and oh, they didn't die because you took Cut Down, because you should take a Coup De Gras, right? Best for snowballing, but it can feel really bad against tanky comps. So just keep in mind, it's best against like comps that aren't too tanky, but you're planning on fighting a lot in lane. If you're planning on playing for more scaling, let's go Cut Down. Cut Down, you can't really go wrong with it because most of the time there are going to be people that are tankier than you. But if you go Cut Down against a squishy comp, very, very bad. Please go Coup De Gras if you're going against squishy comps. Cut Down is nice because it scales really well, and you can go Cut Down versus Enchanter versus Enchanter supports, and you start Cole, and it's going to feel really good too because Cole does better because it gives you no HP, meaning that Cut Down will actually kick in even during the laning phase. Go Cut Down when you're against tanky team comps. Lastly, we have Last Stand. If you're making a montage of Aphelios, Last Stand's great, but now that we can't go Domination secondary and we're not going to be out healing our opponents, Last Stand is a really, really gimmicky rune that will only make your outplays look cooler, but you're not going to get much efficiency from this rune. So only go this if you're like trying to impress a girl, you're smurfing with your boys, like Last Stand might make the difference, okay? But for the most part, Coup De Gras, best for snowballing. If you're going for kills in lane, Coup De Gras, or they're not too tanky, Coup De Gras. If they're tanky, go Cut Down. Okay. All right, are you ready? Okay, secondary runes. Secondary runes, we can go 3 different trees. We can go Inspiration, Sorcery, or Domination. Now I'm gonna break them all down for you and what I like to use and explain my thought process behind them. So first we have the Inspiration Tree. The Inspiration Tree, the number one thing about this Inspiration Tree is that we like taking Cosmic Insight. This rune feels super good on Aphelios, who is extremely flash reliant. So if you think you're gonna need your flash cooldown a lot, like you're against a Malphite, Inspiration is not a bad idea. Not only that, Inspiration has a few different runes you can take with this. So my first bread and butter is I go Cosmic Insight plus Boots. This just makes us super cost efficient. We're going to get free boots and extra movement speed. It's like we get a faster flash cooldown and free boots. We can't really complain. I like going this rune page, especially when I'm going Gale Force, because it reduces my Gale Force timer as well. But do note that this makes your early skirmishing a bit weaker compared to some of the other rune pages that are actually going to give you stats for early fighting. So speaking of early fighting, you can actually go Cosmic Insight plus Biscuits. So this page doesn't feel as good if you don't use your Biscuits early. I would only go this page if you're like, you want your flash cooldown up early, and you're like, yo, I'm gonna need the Biscuits for early fighting. Only if you're gonna be fighting hard early should you go Biscuits. If not, you'll get a lot more efficiency out of going the other pages you can do on this, such as taking Stopwatch. Now, Stopwatch isn't good every game, but taking Stopwatch with Cosmic Insight can be extremely cost efficient if you think you're gonna be needing a Stopwatch later on to the game. So if you're against like a Zed Pike, and you think that stopwatch could actually be game changing, going this rune page where you're gonna have your flash up earlier and getting a free stopwatch is really nice. Like, just think about it. That's 650 gold that you could be spending later. You get it for free. So go if you think you're gonna need it. And then lastly, you can go futures market. I almost never go futures market here. Futures market is really nice when you think you're gonna be snowballing hard. So like, if you're gonna be going Gale Force Collector and on first back you want to get a Serrated Dirk or Berserker's Greaves, then this can help you snowball really hard. But if you're like really not sure, guys, I would recommend just going Cosmic and Boots, or going Cosmic and Stopwatch. These are cost efficient and they provide you a lot just for going the rune page. Next, we have the Sorcery page. The Sorcery page is the best for just flat out scaling and a little bit of outplay mixed in. So my personal favorite, I like going Cosmic, I like going Nimbus Cloak and Gathering Storm. This gives you good scaling, Gathering Storm, and then Nimbus Cloak gives you so much outplay on Aphelios. You can run your opponents down, you can kite them out. It just feels really good. I go this in games where I think I'm just gonna be playing a front to back team fight and I'm playing a bit more for scaling. Or if I'm gonna be taking Cleanse, going Nimbus Cloak plus Cleanse also feels pretty good. So if you don't think you need your flash cooldown that much, this is usually the rune page I default to. Now, we know that Nimbus Cloak is gonna get nerfed in the future, and you're like, well, if I'm looking for a scaling rune page, what else can we mix it up with? We can mix it up with some absolute focus. This is pretty much just like a flat scaling rune page. I would definitely pair this with like Lethal Tempo, but if you're just looking for scaling and you don't think you're gonna be fighting that much in lane, go Sorcery second. You can't really go wrong with it because you're just gonna flat AD throughout the whole game. Feels really good. And absolute focus actually helps your poke in lane too, because as long as you're healthy, you get value out of it. Lastly, we have the Domination Tree. Now, this tree has fallen out of favor really hard. It's just been getting nerfed repeatedly. So I wouldn't really recommend this page unless you think the games are going to be chaotic, skirmishing all the time. You take Conquer, you're going to be fighting everyone. I wouldn't recommend this page, but if you do want to out-heal your opponents and you're going to be skirmishing with Conquer and Chakra all the time, you can still go to this page. So to sum it all up, I would say that Inspiration with Cosmic Insight, this is like your bread and butter. If you're going to go Gale Force and you need your flash cooldown, take the Inspiration Tree. Sorcery is great for scaling, and Nimbus Cloak is also really nice for outplaying. So if you're just going to go for plays once in a while and you want that movement speed and you want that scaling, go Sorcery. I wouldn't go Domination too often, but if you think it's going to be a skirmish heavy game, feel free to go Domination. Was that good enough, guys? Also, before I forget to mention, when you're thinking about rune pages to take for like your actual runes, just take attack speed, attack damage, or adaptive force, and then armor. But when you're against a double AP bot lane, feel free to take magic resist. That's the only variation you need to make. Lastly, I want to talk about the Aphelios changes because you guys have been begging me to talk about them and add it at the end, because you know what, you have to watch the whole video, like and subscribe. Your boy's pumping out the educational content and like all the content. Okay, cool. So Aphelios changes, yada a whole bunch of numbers. They actually really trolled us with this. The only thing I'm upset about mostly, guys, is the fact that they released the patch notes and then they added in the nerfs to his chakrams after. Low blow, Mark Yetter. DM me. Like, we can talk about that, okay? Anyways, let's go to the changes. First, they gave us more magic resist. This is huge. We don't need to take MR anymore for bad matchups where against AP supports we can actually somewhat lane against them. This is dope. This is really dope. Next, we have 80 growth. This is just nice. It makes you feel a bit better throughout the game. It's like an extra longsword throughout the game, so it's nice. It's nothing crazy, but kills where they get away just barely won't happen anymore because we got that. For this, I know a lot of you guys are like, whoa, what's going on here? So let me explain the philosophy that they were going for when nerfing, or I'm sorry, buffing Aphelios. So what they want to do is they want to shift where the power in his kit is. So right now they thought that red-white is too strong of a combo. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to decrease the amount of hits that we can get with Severum, as seen by changing how much bonus attack speed you get for extra hits. And instead they're pushing more damage into the on hit. So what does this mean? It means that when you're using Severum Q, you're going to be getting less hits with your offhand weapon, meaning that you're going to have less opportunities to get more chakrams. That being said, healing from abilities is up. So when we use our Severum Q, it's going to feel better because we're going to heal more for every hit, and it's going to feel better because it scales harder. What else did they change about Severum? Severum is no longer a free bloodthirster in the late game. It's like a Vamp Scepter, 10% healing from basic attacks. So you're gonna still use it in the same way, but I doubt you'll be able to use it with like auto attacking people and 1v1ing them you can use it to just lifesteal, but don't expect it to be as OP as it was before with some crazy healing on auto attacks. Okay, next we have the Crescendo Change, which I know a lot of us are pretty frustrated about. What they're doing here is that they are changing how much damage a lot of our mini chakrams do. It means that we're no longer going to be able to overwhelm fights as hard as we could before with the chakrams because they're doing less damage overall. So I've heard somewhere, I don't know the exact stats, but I've heard we're doing about like 1/3 less damage in the early game. But it's nothing too crazy. I've played it, guys. You can still make outplays with chakrams. It's just not as ridiculous. And it's also hard to get more chakrams late game, but early game, for the most part, it's not too different. And they also changed the sentry damage. I mean, like, that's cool. Like, if you put a tower down, it's going to do more damage, but they still get one shot. So if you place your towers down well, it's going to do more damage. But other than that, it's not too crazy. So, like, a way to sum it up would be, I would say that Aphelios actually feels better to play right now because he plays smoother. We're not as gimmicky because we have a higher base MR, meaning that it's going to be okay. We can play bad matchups, and our Qs have been buffed, meaning that we get more rewarded for using our abilities. Now we just have to play around a weaker chakram and figure out that we're going to be doing less damage there, but overall our kit is going to feel a bit more consistent. We're going to use 7Q instead of auto attacking late game, and that's about the only real change I see. Also, I believe the ulti heals us more. Someone can check me up on that, but other than that, that should be it. Guys, if you like the rune page guide and the patch note change reaction, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.